soon.
Good evening and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we are live from Studio Vanguard and we are linked in with the following repeaters.
Tonight we're linked in with McDonough, Buckhead, Flagship, Jersey, Watkinsville, Fort Mountain, Zebulon, Lula, Toccoa, Noonan, Columbus, Rome, Dallas, Lookout Mountain, White Oak, Chattanooga, Cades Cove, Mount Roosevelt, Georgetown, and Ottawa.
Tonight, RRF coverage encompasses approximately 41,000 square miles. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I would like to thank everyone who has made the North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 947, WQYR 514. My name is Julie.
Atlanta 946, WQYR 514. My name is Justin.
And WSAL 368, Atlanta 263. My name is Rogers.
And we've got free salad in the treehouse somewhere.
All right. On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we would like to hear. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Guest check-ins are welcome from anyone with a valid FCC call sign. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and when you sign out of the net. Also, you can tune in to our YouTube channel and follow along, or even better, tune in after the net and hear how you sound to us right here in Studio Vanguard. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment so we know you were watching. These interactions mean the most to help our channel grow. So tonight's topic is preparedness. This is Preparedness Month.
I wasn't prepared for that.
So anyway, before we get to that, we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Mike for this week's announcements. Are you with us, Mike?
Well, thanks, Julie. I am here from my secret treehouse bunker location. How do you hear me?
Mike, you're sounding excellent.
How do you get a bunker in a treehouse?
One day I'll show you. All right, well, this is WRWM 344 Blue Ridge 63 with tonight's, or this week's, news and announcements. I've got some upcoming gatherings to tell you about first. Several of these are right around the corner, so pay attention and write these down if you are interested. These meetups are always a great way to meet fellow members in and around your area. First up, the Kennesaw Gathering will have its next Meet and Geek meetup on Tuesday, September 9th at noon at the Old Town Grill on Cobb Parkway, right around the corner from the McCollum Airport in Kennesaw. That's this coming Tuesday. Bring your radio if you have any programming issues to discuss on that September 9th date. Ed and team will have a mobile test bench available after lunch where they can test and program some of the most popular radios. You can reach out to Ed Atlanta 557 beforehand on the air or via email at wrqg806@gmail.com if you're planning to attend, so he makes sure to reserve enough seats. And also let him know ahead of time if you have any radio issues so that he can make sure to have the right programming cables and software available. It's a cool thing they do. The Peachtree Corners Brunch Bunch meets the third Saturday of every month at JR's Longhouse in Peachtree Corners. This month, that date will be September 20th. It looks like they'll have a special lady joining us, Pamela says. She looks forward to talking to new and existing members about some of the events coming up around the network. If you're a radio enthusiast, please plan to join for a tasty meal. You can reach out to Pamela, Atlanta 849, or Atlanta 848 Ernest or you can send an email to skygazerpamela849@gmail.com. The next Northeast Lunch Meetup will be Wednesday, September 24th at 11 a.m. at the usual location. That's Rooster's Cafe in Dahlonega. All North Georgia GMRS members and future members are welcome to join. For more information about the Northeast Lunch Bunch Meetup, contact Bobby, Atlanta 403, or Joe, Gainesville 44. Let me break. The next West Side Luncheon is also coming up Saturday, September 13th at the Taco Mac in Marietta. The address there is 2650 Dallas Highway in Marietta, Georgia. You can join the Rabbit Hole Gang for some good rabbit wings and good conversation. Don't forget, the Hamfest Chattanooga 2025 is coming up on Friday, October 3rd, and Saturday, October 4th. The Chattanooga Amateur Radio Club and North Georgia GMRS Network have joined together this year to host this show in a spectacular new venue called the Colonnade in Ringgold, Georgia. You can visit the website www.hamfestchattanooga.net for more information. This year's GMRS Fest will feature several speakers and forums from the North Georgia GMRS Network, and that's a variety of topics like creating GMRS dipole antennas, Meshtastic, radios and preparedness, and GMRS for beginners. NGGMRS, Hobbit Communications, and a brand new entity to be announced will be among the many vendors at the first GMRS Fest. If you're able to volunteer, either Friday, Saturday, or both, we are looking for volunteers. Please send an email to justin@nggmrs.org. We're looking for talk-in operators to work out of the Vanguard studio for both the GMRS band and the amateur talk-in frequencies. Again, the dates: Friday, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. On Friday, the hours are noon to 6 p.m., and on Saturday, the hours are 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. General admission for folks 18 and over is $10 per person. It's good for both days of the show, and youth admission under 18 is free. Again, more details at hamfestchattanooga.net. Let me break. There's been a lot of discussion, conversation, and good back and forth about Meshtastic. So if you are a Meshtastic fan, or if you're interested in getting involved, given all the great interest across our Facebook page and on Thursday Night Nets, we are hosting the first ever Meshtastic workshop. This is going to be pretty cool. It'll be held on September 13th, that's a week from this Saturday, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the West Cobb Library in Kennesaw. It's on Kemp Lane next to the YMCA. Chattanooga 260, Atlanta 194, and Atlanta 557. That's Colt, Scott, and Ed will be there to provide an introduction to Meshtastic, talk about what you can do with it, and how they are using it in and around the Atlanta area and elsewhere across our great state. The workshop portion of it will show you how to configure a new node, answer any questions that you have, and end with live demos. So if you have a working node, or so that you will have a working node to take home and use. Nodes can also be purchased at the event, or you can bring your own. The workshop is free to attend, but they do want to know in advance how many folks are planning to make it, so they can make sure to accommodate the size of the group. They hope to see you all there. Please send an RSVP to WRQG806@gmail.com. If you can't make it to this one, you can also find this group at the Dalton Hamfest October 3rd and 4th, where they will have a forum specific to Meshtastic. That's it. If you have any questions, comments, or news to share, please send an email to justin@nggmrs.org. All right, Julie, back to you.
Thank you for that, Mike. We appreciate it. There are so many events going on, so if you missed it, make sure you log into our YouTube and you can replay everything then. With that, as I discussed earlier, September is National Preparedness Month, and all through the month of September, we are going to talk about some of the highlights of preparedness. Tonight, we're going to talk about food and water storage. Without a pending disaster, we should have a couple of food options on hand at all times. Our pantries should have a variety of items that will allow us to prepare meals for a few days. Hopefully, our freezer has plenty of protein, but the unexpected is just that. If the floods have washed through North Carolina, had wiped out our roads, it may be weeks before we could get to a supermarket. What if the power was out for days on end? What if the water stopped flowing from your taps? Would you have been prepared for that? Very few of us would. Did you know your bathtub can hold 40 to 50 gallons of water? In fact, they make a bladder you can put in your tub and safely store clean water. Emergency food rations are also easy to buy and store. Some of these come in convenient plastic totes and have a 25-year shelf life. While probably not the most satisfying, these food rations can sustain you and your family, provided you have the means to prepare them, as in a way to boil water. What else can we do to store emergency rations? What are some of your ideas for storing water for emergency use? We hope you will join in on tonight's conversation about food and water storage. These are just a few of the new user tips and operating procedures, and I hope you'll tune in next week for my next episode. Remember, if you have any questions or suggestions for new user tips and operating procedures, send me a note at julie@NGGMRS.org. And with that, I would say let's go back to check-ins.
All right. Well, I think that's a great idea. Let's see if we can find any more North Georgia GMRS regional net chickens and get them in the log. Mike, stand by for additional check-ins here tonight. Looks like we've got, let me go ahead and read off some of these YouTube check-ins. So we've got Miko, our friend from upstate New York. That would be WRYQ 727. We've got Atlanta 123 Jarius in Ellenwood. We've got Columbus 25 Peter in West Point. Gainesville 63 Willard in Homer. Let me break. Who's got the button? We've also got WRQE 398R Ferguson from Hayesville, Kansas. Mr. Ferguson, have a look around and be on the lookout for tree houses. You might just find our intrepid treehouse occupier. We have Rome 11 Mark in Adairsville. We also have Atlanta 1150 Tony in Canton. And Rome 12 Mark is in Rome. Those are the YouTube check-ins we have at this time. Let's go ahead and grab some additional RF check-ins from any repeater other than Flagship. And, of course, keep checking in on YouTube if you'd like. Thanks, Mike, for catching those. And Net Control, standing by.
This is WRKK69, Chattanooga 84, check me in.
This is Atlanta 295 WSJL 977, Rhino, Cheshire Bridge Road, Atlanta, Georgia. Good evening, Net Control, check me in.
This is for guests hoping to grab a number this November. Checking in. I'm on probably the Buckhead repeater, right in the middle of Atlanta. This is WREB 450, Atlanta 26. This chicken is from Druid Hills, the beautiful Druid Hills. Checking in through the Buckhead repeater because I'm not allowed on Flagship right now.
Control. Net Control, this is Atlanta 250. Jennifer, Atlanta 255, would like me to relay her in. Again, she's a little bit tied up right now. She texted me and see if I couldn't put her in and out. So there you have it. This is WSGS 735, Unit 40, Orestes, Palmetto, Georgia. Be in and out.
This is Whiskey Sierra Hotel November 839.
This is WRKA 361 Atlanta 710. Scott and Roswell checking in and checking out.
WRQG 433 Cates Cove 29er tonight, checking out from Knoxville.
All right, let me go ahead and acknowledge this round of check-ins. We heard Chattanooga 84 Jim in Hickson. We lost the tail end of what you had there, Jim, but we did get you checked in. We get you marked as in for now. We heard Atlanta 295 Rhino in Atlanta. We've got you marked as in. There was a guest check-in on the Buckhead repeater, but you got stepped on, and we missed your FCC call. So user on Buckhead, if you can try that again, we'll definitely try to get you in here. We have Atlanta 26 Flip from the beautiful downtown Druid Hills would like to be counted among tonight's chickens. Atlanta 336 Jeff in Monroe is a YouTube check-in. Atlanta 255 Jennifer in Dawsonville was relayed in by Atlanta 250 in and out. Noonan 40 Orestes in Palmetto is in and out. And we heard WSHN, Whiskey Sierra Hotel, November, and we didn't hear the last part of the call sign or any other part of that call. So we think that came in on a Lookout Mountain machine, but we missed your check in there. It was just very low audio, and it kind of faded there at the end. So if you can try that again, nice and loud into the microphone, I think we'll get you in the log. We have Atlanta 710 Scott in Roswell, in and out. Cades Cove 29 Carl in Knoxville, in and out. And from YouTube, we have WQAI363 Adam from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And we have Atlanta 379 Scott from Sandy Creek, New York. Those are the check-ins we have at this time. We'll continue with check-ins from any repeater, including the flagship machine. Net Control, standing by.
This is Whiskey Sierra Hotel November 839, Chattanooga 32, Scott in Northwest Georgia. Thank you.
There we go.
This is Good Evening Net Control. This is WRNW 488 Atlanta 532. Tom in Flowery Branch. I'll be checking in and checking out tonight. Have a great net, everybody.
Hello, Net Control. This is WSJP534. I'm your guest on the Buckhead repeater that got stepped on. Hopefully this is good copy. Thanks so much.
Control. Control, this is WSAM 231, Atlanta 102, Jim in Matt, Georgia, on the mighty flagship.
It's a Dragon Con.
All right, we've got a couple of corrections and a couple of new check-ins, and looks like we've got a maybe a YouTube check-in coming about as we speak. But let me go ahead and get our guest on the Buckhead machine was WSJP532. We got a great copy on you this time, so thank you for that check-in. We've got you in log. Next, we have WSHN839, Chattanooga 32, Scott in Rossville. Thank you for that correction. Great to have you along tonight. We have Atlanta 532, Tom in Flowery Branch is in and out. And we have Atlanta 102, Jim in Cumming. He said he was somewhere. Did you recall where he... I missed that.
Didn't get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed it. Sorry about that. We've got you listed as incoming, and... we have you marked as in for the moment. Also, we've got Dallas 21. Lisa is a YouTube check-in. And Lisa, I hope that you'll stick around, maybe chime in on RF at the end and fill in any holes that we've left. Because I know that the Rabbit Hole Gang has lots of experience and lots of ideas when it comes to food and water storage. So... I think this is one of those nets where we all learn something that we hadn't considered, or relearn something that we knew and we just kind of forgot. So this will be a great refresher for a lot of us, and this will be some good information for many of us. And you know, along that line, when you're talking about preparedness, Rogers, what are you prepared for?
Well, you know, I was in the Boy Scouts growing up. So the motto was be prepared. Right. So I've always taken that throughout the course of my life, and it's a mentality for me. So when I buy like a jug of water, it could just be a gallon. Once that's done, you know, spring water, I have a filtered water system at home, and I'll just fill it up with filtered water. And that way that jug goes back into use instead of just throwing it out.
Right.
Why not build up a small cache of it?
Well, and you know that's the thing too, that when you're buying water, and you can buy a gallon of water from the supermarket for about what it costs to buy a 20-ounce bottle. So you know, if you're going to go buy a gallon of water, why not buy two? Or if you're going to go buy a can of beans, just go ahead and grab two, and put one on a shelf. And then when you consume that first can, go ahead and replace it, and maybe get two more. Now you've got two of them back on the shelf. You know, and you can just accumulate. You can accumulate your food stores very, very inexpensively, with very little effort, and you know, in short order. Let me break. In short order, you can have lots of extra food in your pantry, especially when you're talking about things like canned goods. You know, bottled water, you got to be careful. Those cheap plastic bottles, those milk jug bottles, they'll decompose in storage.
Oh.
So if you're going to keep that water for long term, you want something else to store it in, because those milk bottles, David and Lisa can tell you about this from some of their experience. Those bottles will break down over time and they will leak.
That's not good.
So even if they're just sitting on a shelf, nobody's touched them, they're just fine right where they are. You think that water is going to be good for 6 months, maybe a year. After some period of time, maybe you want to treat it with the chlorine tablet or something. But the water should stay for a long time. Well, you have to be careful because those bottles are meant to break down once they're no longer in use. Well, they'll break down while they're still in use. So
Right.
over a period of time. So you want to be careful about things like that. Have a bunch of water on a shelf and then find out you have wet shelves. Yikes.
Yikes, not good.
Yeah. So just some words of caution. Something that David and Lisa brought to us from their own experience. I'd never considered. I'd never really had those type of bottles on a wooden shelf long enough to really realize. But we used to freeze those bottles. Typically it was a rinsed out milk carton, but we would freeze those bottles. And so when you're trying to make ice, you can freeze those gallon water bottles, and then while it's still in the plastic carton, you can beat that with a hammer and have nice chunks of ice. And as you're beating it with a hammer, you will break the plastic, but it's just easy at that point to rip the plastic off and throw those chunks of ice in a cooler. So we used to do that. I haven't done that in ages, but it's just easier now to go buy a bag of ice. But we used to do a lot of that, about making our own ice,
Right.
and those gallon water bottles would come apart pretty easily. So, all right, and then I think, what do you think? Should we go ahead and jump to the top and see what other ideas we have?
I think so. And, with it being National Preparedness Month, we have hurricanes that may come through. I know last year a buddy of mine was in Augusta, Georgia, and he was without electricity and running water for 2 weeks. And you wouldn't think that would happen this
Right.
far north, but you just never know what can happen.
Well, and that's kind of the point of preparedness, right? And like the Boy Scouts, be prepared. Just be prepared. And whatever you do, if you need one, take two. And that way, if one of them breaks, you're still good to go. If you've got an extra tarp and your tent has a failure or springs a leak or whatever, you can throw the tarp on top. Just be prepared. Have some contingencies and be aware of what some of your shortcomings and failures might be, and have a plan to back that up if you need to. Let me break. But there comes a point at time in which you have to consider, what are we prepared for? Because if you've got, let's say you've got 6 months worth of food and water safely stored in your garage, but the tornado took your garage away.
Oh,
Now what?
a contingency, plan B. But a lot of times we don't plan for plan B. We just, shelter in place and have everything at home. But yet, like you said, what if something happens? Now we're back to square one.
We could very easily be back to square one. So part of our planning and part of our contingencies should be, plan B. And, do we have a neighbor who also has some good stockpile that we can, depend on in a circumstance like that? We've got a huge network of friends here on the North Georgia GMRS Network, and we can draw on those resources. So if something like that were to happen, and your stuff gets wiped out, but my stuff is still okay, we can help each other out. It doesn't have to be all for one.
Yeah, and I heard this on the rabbit hole recently, last Sunday. Or what if someone comes in and, take some of your things, or maybe, you're not there and you get back home and some of your things are gone. So maybe having a secondary location, maybe on your property, maybe at the neighbor's house or a friend or family, where you still have a small stash that you can get to in the event that, your main house is taken out.
Yeah, I think that's something that, and like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you need a mountain property in addition to the place you live in the suburbs. You may just need to have an acquaintance that you can count on, that if something like that were to happen, that you've got maybe a place to stay, maybe a source for supplies and things to get back on your feet again. I know we had some water damage here at the house a while back. Let me break. I think this is probably in the order of about 10 years ago. But we had water damage in the house, and we had insurance hire a contractor to fix some of the things, and primarily one of the things was drywall, and it was floors. All right, so we had to rip out all of the existing floors right down to the concrete, and then put new flooring back in, and lots of repairs to drywall, lots of repairs to the wainscot, to the mop boards. They all had to be replaced. Some cabinets got damaged and had to be replaced. So it was a pretty big job, and the insurance company wanted us to just move out so that the contractors could come in and wham bam get it all put back together in short order, and then we could come back in. Well, we've got dogs, and trying to live in a hotel room with dogs, we lasted 4 or 5 days. We tried. We really put a lot of effort into it. But what we'd found is that the amount of effort in taking care of dogs at a hotel room, taking them out to walk and being able to, exercise the dogs and having, safe environments for them, and also having to come back here because we had chickens at the time. So we still had to come back here and tend to the chickens. Now, it's pretty easy to put a couple days worth of food and water out for the chickens, but you don't want to go more than a few days with that, because what if something happens and their water gets knocked over? You don't want to let the chickens be without, so you want to be constantly checking on them. It was just such a burden to not be here. So it's something you have to consider, is if you can't be at home, and this is something that our friend Houston can attest to. When he had some insurance work done on his house, he had to live away from home for a little while, and it's not convenient, and it's not as comfortable. There's no place like home when it comes to. It's nice to get away once in a while, but after a few days, it's nice to get back home. So these are also things that need to come into plan, and hopefully we've got some good ideas as to how we can bridge these shortcomings. I keep thinking back about some of the lessons we learned with North Carolina. Nobody expected that. Nobody saw that coming. There was no contingency plan for that what if. We really thought that, that night before the hurricane came through, we thought it was coming right up through the middle of Georgia. We thought it was going to slam right through the Atlanta region and right through the Woodstock area, and it didn't. It took that hard right south of Atlanta and went up into the Carolinas, and holy cow. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody was really prepared for it. And how could you be with that kind of devastation? Let's break. So these are some of the things we want to talk about, is how do you prepare for, how do you store, how do you be sure that you can be self-reliant, I think is the most important thing in the event of some kind of a disaster.
And I will say this, we have, radar and weather mapping systems, and we can see these storms developing and, coming up our way, or maybe near miss, as Helene did. But, my main thing also is not to be one of those people that's, rushing to the shelves one day before the disaster comes, or maybe the day of,
right,
only to find that the shelves are empty. And then what at that point?
Well, that's one thing that I found, having Walmart right here on the corner. We've gone down there plenty of times thinking that it's too late to pick up those last minute supplies. But I'll tell you what, usually it's the bread and the milk that gets wiped out at those stores, when the storm's coming through and you want to go get your last minute items. Walmart has always had plenty of bread and milk. But if you're in a market for beer and Pop-Tarts, they're not going to have any.
Wow.
That's what our Walmart does. But I'm sure that the other Walmarts are a little bit different. But the beer aisle gets wiped out time and again when severe storms come through.
Well, you got to have a good time, I guess. Ride it out.
Everyone's got their priorities, and you have to respect that.
Might as well drink a cold beverage and just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah. Who knows what'll happen? So no harm in that, because there seems like there's always bread. COVID, not so much, but for severe storms, there's always bread. So that's one thing that I've noticed here around here is that it's the beer and the things like Hot Pockets and Pop-Tarts.
Interesting.
All right. Well, let's head on up to. Well, I'll tell you what, before we do, I want to see if Blue Ridge 63 has any comments for tonight's net. Any advice from the treehouse?
Well, this is Blue Ridge 63. As far as advice goes, I don't think I have a whole lot that's novel or different, but I agree with the idea of when you're at the store and the finances, the budget allows, if you can grab a couple extra of something that you're already buying, try to buy stuff that you and your family already use, already eat, and already are familiar with stocking on the regular, even if it's just a little bit here and there. As you go throughout the course of the year, that stockpile will get a little bit better and a little bit more complete. And, by the time you get to the end of the year, you'll feel pretty good about where you're sitting. I do want to call attention to a couple of YouTube comments that we had that I felt like really hit the mark as far as the conversation goes. One of our members survived Helene and said, believe it or not, you can't have too many paper plates and cutlery. Washing dishes in a disaster uses up time and energy. So I thought that one was good. And then Miko, our friend from upstate New York, had a good one as well about storing water in the freezer, freezing those gallon jugs of water that you were talking about, throw them in your chest freezer, and that'll help keep your food frozen. So some good conversation and tips on the YouTube chat tonight. Back to you.
That's a great point, Mike. And one thing I like about the frozen water in a freezer, all right? So an empty freezer actually uses more energy to keep things frozen than a full freezer does. So it's the air in the freezer that tends to change temperature more rapidly. When you have mass in the freezer, it will hold its temperature for a longer period of time, and it requires less energy to keep it at that temperature. So if you get space in your freezer, fill that space up with some water bottles. And then if you get to the place where, okay, well, I just bought some meat and I need to throw some in the freezer, but it's full of water bottles, take them out. Take a couple of bottles out, set them beside the freezer or somewhere nearby. Let them thaw. Let them do whatever they're going to do. The water's not going to go bad, but the meat will. So it doesn't really cost us much of anything to go ahead and pull those water bottles out to make room for that food. And then as we consume the food, we can replace that space with water bottles again. But I think that makes our freezers operate more efficiently. And if we do experience an outage, you've got that thermal mass to help keep things at a constant temperature for a longer period of time. So that's one thing that I love to do, is I love to fill the freezer so that it's full. And if we run out of stuff to put in a freezer that makes it full, I like to throw water bottles in there. One thing that I've learned is that water bottles will only take so many cycles of freeze and thaw. So that's something you want to rotate as well. And I also see that Miko had made that comment about rotating your food. So you don't just let that can of beans stay in the back of the cabinet. It's probably good for 10 years. Canned food has a remarkable longevity, well past its expiration date. But nonetheless, rotate your food stocks so that your oldest items are consumed first, and your newest items will be in toward the back of the cabinet. That's great advice. Thanks for that. And thanks for keeping an eye on that, YouTube. I'm going to come back to you at some point, Mike, and see if you have anything else for us. But let's check in with Atlanta 780 Houston in Austell. And Houston, did you have any words of wisdom for our audience tonight?
Atlanta 780 WQUV 439. No, sir, I don't think so. I have some supplies, but like you say, swap out your canned goods, or if you leave them back there too long, they will taste like canned goods. Myself, I've got a small freezer, so I don't have room to put a lot of water, but I do get some of these gel packs and some of the medications I get, and I'll pack them in the back of the freezer, and if the power goes off, it kind of keeps things cool for a lot longer. Water, I know the water bottles, they're not, if they're the same as they used to be, they're not made to say for 5 or 10 years. They will start leaking on you or bust, especially if you stack them too high. Don't stack them over 2 or 3 high if you got cases. That's about all I've got, Justin.
That reminds me of a story from long ago. I worked on a farm, and one of the things that we kind of side project, I guess, on the farm is that sometimes they would buy surplus or damaged grocery items and repackage, clean them up, and resell them. And there was a day on that particular farm, it's a chicken farm, 80,000 chickens on that farm. One particular day, the boss had come in with a truckload of bottled water, gallon bottles, plastic bottles like milk jugs. And these cases, these pallets were all busted up, Some of the cases were ripped open and they were all soggy and wet. And the task that the boss gave me and another guy was to help him unload the truck and stack up all the water in a corner in one of the coolers where we kept chicken eggs. And coolers were never really more than about half full because they were pretty regular about coming to get the eggs out of the coolers. So he wanted all that water stored in one of the coolers for the chicken coop there. And so he's handing water bottles out off the back of the truck to me and another guy to carry into the building. And then we're going to move them into the cooler here in a little bit. And we weren't working as fast as he wanted us to. And so he got to the place where as we're stepping out of the building, he's got water bottles in the air, throwing them towards us to catch them and just set them down inside. And these water bottles are coming fast and furious. And did you know those things will burst open just like a water balloon?
That's crazy.
Do you know how wet 1 gallon of water will make you?
I wouldn't want to find out.
Soaking. So I think he started to have more fun throwing bottles of water at us and watching them burst on us than he was in trying to develop any kind of water storage there. But that water didn't stick around for very long. I don't remember what he did with it, but I know it didn't stay in the cooler but for a couple of weeks. But that was one of the things we very often we get pallets of food and stuff like that. And, if there was a case of canned stuff that was all smashed up, our job would be to rinse off the nasty off the cans, throw away anything that's open, and then everything else would get wiped off. And then I don't know if that food got donated. I don't know what he ever did with it, but it went somewhere. I think it was sold probably to the Amish in the area or to the less wealthy of our neighbors. But yeah, water bottles, they will break open just like a water balloon.
Well, that could be a little fun if it's hot outside.
It was a good hot day, but yeah, it was a wet day too after that. So thanks, Houston, for that. And if you want to know what it's like being displaced from your home while your home's being repaired for insurance damage, give Houston a call and have a chat with him because he's got firsthand experience with that. I think he was just over a year living in his camper while they were rebuilding his home from lightning damage. So and that's the other thing. You just never know. You just never know about things like that. It was the most bizarre circumstance that Houston's house was damaged by lightning. And as many of us would like to think that it's because of all those antennas. No, it came in on the siding of the house. I think it was a gutter that got hit, and then it set his attic on fire.
Wow.
Didn't have anything to do with his radios at all. But there was a lot of water damage, from the fire department trying to put that fire out. All right, with that, let's move on. Next, we've got Chattanooga 260 Colt in downtown Dalton, Georgia. Colt, do you have any comments for food and water storage for tonight's net?
This is Chattanooga 260 WSCM 4.4. Yeah, water is a big deal, man.
I sit on a lot of water, hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water. Have the ability to put it anywhere, everywhere, bathtubs, showers, and other things. But I'll tell you, the biggest part of water that I don't think we talk about is purification. Even if you store that, it can become toxic and deadly.
Yeah, you're not holding the repeater there, Colt. We heard toxic and deadly. So yeah, I know that water can, in some cases, go south over time. We do need to be careful about what things might be growing in our water. Even bottled water that you get from the store isn't necessarily purified water, and even purified water can become contaminated over time. So short-term storage, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. But anything over about 90 days, you need to start thinking about consuming the old stock. And if you can't get that consumed, then have a plan for purification when you do consume it. So if you've got a large container of water someplace on your property, you're collecting rainwater or something like that, you definitely want to purify that water before you consume it. And it might go even a step further. You might use like some chlorine tablets and boil it, just to make sure that there's nothing growing in that water that's going to make you sick. So, and boiling water is probably the single most important thing we can do to make sure that the water is healthy. Purification takes all of the stuff out, but boiling kills the stuff. And if you do the 1-2 step, boil the water, then run it through a filter, then you've got good, safe water to drink. So good stuff with that, Colt. And I'm not sure why you weren't holding the repeater, but you definitely dropped all the way out of there. So with that, we're going to continue on. Atlanta 228 Ray in Canton. Ray, did you have any comments for tonight's net? All right, we're going to show Ray as in and out, and we're going to continue on with Atlanta 250 Dana, high atop Mount Olympus. Dana, I kind of forgot about, we were supposed to make an announcement a little bit ago.
That's right.
Did we make that announcement? No, we didn't make that announcement at all. Dana, are we going to make that announcement tonight?
All right, there are so many. I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, I'm referring to North Georgia GMRS worst kept secret. If any of our members don't know what I'm talking about, the worst kept secret is North Georgia Amateur Radio Association. So we were planning to introduce NGARA at the Chattanooga Ham Fest, but it seems that there's such a demand for engagement and involvement in North Georgia Amateur Radio Association that we are going to go ahead and let that cat out of the bag. So essentially what this is it's an amateur repeater network consisting of we'll have 5 repeaters up before the end of 2025. We've got 3 of them up already. Fort Mountain is coming soon. We've got some climbing work to do on the tower, and once that climbing work is done, I believe the repeater and cabinet are ready to be dropped off and put into play. So once the tower work is finished, Fort Mountain will be on the air. I think the next site then will be Noonan. I could be mistaken about that. So if Atlanta 60 is handy, maybe he can come on and tell us what the next steps are after Fort Mountain. Atlanta 60, are you available?
And I have the Facebook page. Is that good?
Yeah. There's some NGARE graphics in the headshots folder.
Okay.
All right, Gary's being shy, and he's like that sometimes. He likes to be the guy behind the curtain, the wizard in Wizard of Oz. That's who he wants to be. He wants to be known, but he doesn't want to be out there. So, but we can get more information out of him very soon. If you wish to become a very early adopter and member of North Georgia Amateur Radio Association, you can send an email to Gary at nggmrs.org, and he will send you some information about membership and how to get engaged. And another one of the secret things that you may or may not know of, I don't know if this is if this is open for everybody to see, or if you have to have certain privilege. I don't even see it here now. So I think that anyway, in the roster there's a place where I see a bunch of stuff in here now. In the roster there's a place where you can look at the NGARA roster. So if you want to be a member of that, you can check that out. Just look at the membership roster in North Georgia GMRS and look for the NGARA tab if it's there and viewable on your login for that. And talking about all that, I've lost. There we go. Now I can get back to the right page. So yeah, North Georgia Amateur Radio Association. If you want to be a member, that's the method right now. We are the web page is under construction and is not published yet. Rogers had the Facebook page up here just a few moments ago, so and that's hours old. That's, like I say, we've got a lot of things in development right now, but we do expect to make an official announcement and release for NGARA at the Chattanooga Ham Fest. So until then, this is North Georgia GMRS's worst kept secret.
Well, the cat is out the bag now, so
yeah, it pretty much
officially
is. Yeah. So with that information, those that are interested, we do have, these are going to be linked repeaters. And let's see, I don't think I got it into the folder. Was there a coverage map in that folder?
Well, there's one. If people go to the our YouTube channel right now, we do have the North Georgia Amateur Radio Association's Facebook page up, and you can see and join that way as well. And yeah, here's the coverage map right here. So anyone watching on YouTube can see that coverage map that's being currently rolled out.
All right, excellent. Yeah, good. So that's the proposed coverage map with all 10 of the NGARA repeaters. So you get an idea of what that coverage footprint's going to look like. Those will be linked repeaters. Oh, yeah, I should probably break. Yeah, that light doesn't work if you're not looking at it. I'm going to try one more time here to get the Hobbit on here with us and talk to us a little bit about membership and web pages and yeah. So, did you show the graphic that has the logo?
We were on the yeah, it's right here on the Facebook page. So if you look here, if you go to our YouTube channel, and you can see the Facebook page, and you can click to follow and get in on the action.
All right, and then there was in the headshots folder. There were a couple of graphics, maybe the orange and black one. If we can pull that one up, that would be.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, it's kind of supersized. Can we get that to display correctly? He's working on it.
1 second.
Yeah. It got zoomed in somehow.
Oh, and the thing is, I have two keyboards here, so I keep pressing the wrong keyboard. And
Rogers is doing double duty tonight. He's working two separate workstations with different tasks for each one, and but yeah, he's pulling it off. So we got to say hats off to Rogers for that effort.
Yeah, we have like 10 screens up, but the screen where the headshots are in, I couldn't get to pull up because the back and forth. I don't know.
All right. Well, then, with that in mind, let's see if Atlanta 60 can talk to us a little bit. If we wanted to become a member of NGARA, beyond sending an email to Gary, what else do we need to know?
Yeah, for whatever reason, I can't. It's not going from screen to screen. When I click on it on this screen, it shows up on the main screen. So the headshots are.
Atlanta 60, are you available?
About to be in 3 seconds.
Well, I'll just see if I can make the timeout timer go off one more time, and we'll get there. So there again, North Georgia GMRS worst kept secret is the NGARA, and that's the thing that I was hoping Dana would tip his hat to. But we'll come back to you, Dana, here in a minute, and we can talk about preparedness and water and food storage and how to store your radios for so they don't get soggy or go stale. Gary, did you make it? I guess the question at hand is if somebody wanted to become a member of North Georgia ARA, what page do we go to?
Well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I had to transition from 2 different locations because I was enjoying the wonderful YouTube video that's playing. So we're excited. We're very interested, and we're working hard to make things happen. So if folks out there are interested in joining the North Georgia Amateur Radio Association, unfortunately, our website is not ready yet, but we do have a workaround for that. Let me break. So as you alluded to earlier, if those that are interested would send me an email at gary@nggmrs.org, I will send you instructions on how to go to our website and purchase the membership, which will carry you through the rest of this year and all of next year to cover that entry point going into the new organization that we're putting together. Back to you, Justin.
Very good. So, and one of the things that we need to do is kind of develop this membership roster in NGARA to help fund the deployment of the repeaters that we have planned. So if this looks like something that you would like to be able to participate in, it's basically an amateur radio version of what we do in North Georgia GMRS. It's a network of linked repeaters that will have a very similar footprint to what we enjoy with North Georgia GMRS. And if that's something you think you'd like to be a part of, then we'd definitely invite you to become a member of NGARA. It's a separate membership level from the GMRS side of things. And for those of you that are GMRS members, GMRS license holders that would like to get engaged in amateur radio, this is an extra incentive to do so. So you can hold a membership in NGGMRS, or you can hold a membership in NGARA, or you can hold both. And we definitely would welcome and appreciate those willing to support both bands of radio activities. But we just feel like this is a great time to help develop linked radio repeaters in the amateur community. We think we can build a larger network than most ham clubs can, because we're not limited by county or city boundaries. We really have no limits in terms of our geography. So we can cover a very large area more effectively, I think, than a lot of ham clubs can. Now, one thing, well, let me break real quick. One thing I want to convey is that we don't have any interest in breaking up ham clubs. This isn't something that we've ever intended to be something you would do instead of your local ham club. We see this as an extra or another tool in your communications toolbox to be able to communicate with the North Georgia GMRS membership in the amateur radio side of things, and with other amateurs as they become members. So this isn't something to take away from anything that is established and existing in amateur radio. This is something to enhance the communications options that we already have. So definitely would encourage anyone with an interest to support NGARA, and we'll see where this thing goes. I think it's an exciting opportunity. So Dana, did you have anything you wanted to add on that before we go back to Gary?
You know something, Justin?
No, Dana, I'm not sure what happened there, but maybe his chair broke. Dana, are you all right?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, did you fall out of your chair again?
No, my trigger, my hand trigger for the headset just stopped working like the last one did. Not sure if I'm going to buy another one of these. Anyway, what I wanted to just repeat, something that you have said over and over again, is the North Georgia GMRS Network is a great gateway to amateur, to be exposed to amateur radio. This makes it even a better circumstance that you can, number one, you're a member of GMRS. Then if and you have established friends and relations on GMRS, let me break. And if you need, somebody to study with to get that ham ticket, this just makes the opportunity that much more exciting, that much better, to know that you can stay with GMRS and become a member of the North Georgia Amateur Radio Association. So we're ushering new blood by doing this into the amateur world, and that is much, much needed. Back to you.
Very good stuff. Well, Gary, one of the questions that has come up, and I'd like for you to address, is what about NGARA VEs? Will we be having any amateur radio classes or testing?
Well, absolutely. And to both your point and Dana's point, this all makes sense, is because as everybody knows, when we've been at the Hamfest or we've been at different venues, we've always talked about how we are nurturing amateur radio within our GMRS organization. And so it's made sense for us, and it's finally time that we stand up another organization, and NGARA is a subsidiary of the company, North Georgia GMRS, and this is our next venture, our next move into expanding the radio hobby or the radio experience. So we are definitely in the making, and for many years, for over 6 years, we have already had in our organization a Laurel VE team that is in existence. Many of us are VEs, and we've done probably over 100 testing situations. Let me break. So I don't want to get into the weeds too much on the organization, but we're going to stand up 5 regions within this this group. I don't know if you guys can post the coverage map again up on YouTube, but each region will have a regional manager. And within that region, we are going to provide VE testing. That way, you don't have to come to Noonan, or you don't have to go all the way to the west side. We will, in time, it'll take a little bit of time, this is early, but we will have VE teams set up basically in the areas where you're seeing the repeaters on the map, and those regional managers will oversee and provide areas for the people in that area to gather and do many things, do socials, do training, Elmer participations, workshops, and VE testing as well. So it's early, but be patient, folks. We've got a whole bunch of things we want to do. We'll have a bullet item list shown available shortly where we, these are goals. These are things we want to do because my primary goal is to make amateur radio fun, exciting, enlightening, and a bright new experience for folks that want to embrace amateur radio and move deeper into the hobby as not only their wallet but their time will allow. I hope that answers the question.
No, very good stuff. And yeah, I think the opportunities to expand our radio capabilities are one of the things that I see when you look at the membership roster, we used to run about 50%, but right now our numbers have been around 38 to 40% of our membership are amateur radio operators, and we see a certain amount of what's the word I'm looking for? People that move out of GMRS and are no longer North Georgia GMRS members because they want to transition into amateur radio. Well, this is a way that we can allow our membership to make that transition and still remain connected to the North Georgia GMRS family. So we've had a number of high-profile members that just aren't anymore because they're very busy and very happily engaged in all things amateur radio. And so we wanted a way to be able to allow people to bridge into amateur radio and still maintain that connection, back to North Georgia GMRS. So I think this is one of those things that allows for that. And with such a significant percentage of our membership as already hams, I think that this does nothing but encourage the rest of us to step up and become a ham. And we want to provide the resources to make that happen. So as a Laurel VE test administrator, when you test with North Georgia GMRS or NGARA, there's no charge. Those test sessions are free. So you'll be able to come in and sit down and take a test. And if you don't pass, you can come back and test again next time. And you're not shelling out every time that you do that. So that's another way that we can help people capitalize and maximize their wallet and get the most bang for the buck.
Yeah, because even getting into GMRS last year, my mind is constantly thinking, okay, what's next? What's next? Or how can I make my station better? How can I get out further on simplex? And so, to what you just said, a lot of people say what's next, and what's next is amateur radio. As we're already operating close to frequencies in the 70 centimeters, but just being able to get out and do amateur bands just opens it up to a whole new level of fun. So I like this new rollout. It's nice, and the coverage map looks very impressive.
Yeah, I really like the coverage map, and it really does center on a lot of the areas that we tend to talk in anyway. So I think that this will be good. The other thing that this does is it kind of offers that bridge, right? Because like you say, you first become engaged in GMRS radio. One of the earliest things that you do is find ways to improve your station. Let me break. And so we make changes to our antennas. We make changes to our radio. We upgrade from an HT to a base or a mobile. We upgrade our antenna system. We upgrade our grounding system. We do all these things that lower the noise floor, that improve our signal propagation. We put our antennas up in high places, hang them from trees. We put them on masts. We do all these things that we think will help us to make a better station. And once we've learned all of these things, you've learned a lot of what it takes to be a ham. You're as a 2-year GMRS license holder, you're halfway there. Oh, yeah. So the things that you've learned already mostly apply to what it's going to take to become a ham. And I would just encourage many of us that have gone down that road to start off with a very basic station and then figure out what it takes to make an excellent station. And some of our very new users have done exactly that. They've come on the air with scratchy, hard to read signal strength, and they have improved their station over time to the place where, wow, that's super clean. So and that's something that I think the people that are driven to do those kind of things are the people that are going to be driven to participate in NGARA. So,
and I will just say, I'm personally studying for my amateur license right now, and being in GMRS for over a year, I knew about a third to half of the questions already. You know, like, what is a repeater? All of us know that.
Yeah,
and,
I think
just different questions that you just don't think you know, but you really already know it.
I think that a lot of us could go to hamstudy.org, download the app on your phone, and just take the test today without studying at all. And I think, like you say, you're going to get probably 30-40% of the questions right, because you already have a lot of foundation. And I don't think it takes a lot of study for many of us to be able to get into an amateur radio license. Especially the technician level will get you into access to this group of repeaters, and that hopefully will inspire and encourage you to do more. Gary, did you have any follow-up?
Yeah, the only follow-up I want to give, and I don't want to take up too much of your program, because certainly while we're at the Ham Fest, both at Chattanooga and Stone Mountain, we'll have excellent opportunities to answer questions. But to your point about standing up this organization, a couple points. I want everybody to understand that the amateur radio side of North Georgia is totally separate from the GMRS side. We are not borrowing anybody's repeaters or sharing repeaters. We have gone with CIRA and gotten our own CIRA coordinated frequencies. We are installing brand new repeaters. Most of them are 440. We do have a couple 2-meter repeaters that will be standing up. And it's very important for folks to understand that since these are two separate organizations, they are two separate entities. One operates under Part 95. The other one will operate under Part 97, and there'll be no blur or gray area whatsoever. It's amateur radio for one purpose, and it's GMRS for another purpose. But the whole purpose is for us to provide an avenue for folks to be able to excel in amateur radio. And I've already put out the challenge. I don't have a date yet, but the challenge is that our amateur radio net night, I expect to exceed on all points and all levels of enthusiasm, excitement, and information, just as you and Rogers and Gary provide every Thursday night. I want our amateur nets to be just as lively and fun. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope everyone else is, and I appreciate the support. Back to net control.
All right. Well, that's our challenge, Rogers. What do you think?
Well, I'm all up for it, and I think just the excitement alone of having new repeaters up and new bands that we can talk on. If you love GMRS, you're gonna love amateur as well, and it's to me it's twice the fun.
I think so. And as Gary was saying, there's not really any crossover between GMRS and amateur radio. So there's not going to be cross-band repeating. None of that is allowed under the rules, and none of it will be tolerated or engaged in, by the membership or by the leadership. That's something we're absolutely not interested in. But the 2-meter repeater and the 440 repeaters for amateur will be linked together, just like we are in GMRS. There's no controversy to the linking there. There's really no controversy to the linking here if you can read and understand the rules. Part 95 rules do explicitly allow for GMRS linking. There is an opinion on the Part 95 webpage that suggests otherwise. It's ill-advised, it's misleading, but it is not a Part 95 rule. So we don't follow opinions. We follow Part 95 rules with North Georgia GMRS. And that's why we are still the largest, most expansive GMRS linked network in the country. So with that in mind, we'll have a large linked network in the amateur radio world as well, and I think that'll be fun. So the challenge now is putting together net programs for both amateur radio and for North Georgia GMRS.
And I was thinking, we're talking about Preparedness Month here. Last year when Hurricane Helene came through North Carolina, there were many amateur radio stations that set up impromptu net control, and they were able to locate people who were maybe displaced.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to do proof of life or do check-ins for people. So this will expand our reach to the community as well, to be a resource, in case any kind of disaster or emergency communications need to take place.
Well, it'll be another challenge for the North Georgia GMRS ESN network, which is an experiment and a project that is geared toward preparedness for relief and for just emergency response, so that we can have somebody in a position to monitor. I think that's the most important thing we can do as an ESN network, is just have someone dedicated to be on the air listening, not necessarily on the air chatting, but listening, so that if somebody does have an emergency call out, they are set up and equipped with resources and tools to be able to deal with that emergency, just as we had the opportunity to engage in recently at the Sheriff's Jeep Fest. Let me break. So I think that'll be one more challenge. Dana, do you think that's a challenge that the ESN group is prepared to meet? How many of our ESN net control operators are hams?
Well, I'd venture to say there are, out of 23 ESN net controllers, probably 50% of them are already amateur licensed. So, it's all this is going to come together. It's going to come together quick. It's going to be an evolution, which is all the more reason for people to get in on the ground level, because they'll be able to experience and learn at the same time. So, I do believe we'll be able to meet the challenge.
Well, very good stuff. Well, Dana, the topic tonight was food and water storage. Do you have any points you'd like to make along that line?
Freshwater storage, I do not do, only for the fact I got two reasons for that. One, I got significant backup power, and I'm on a well with some really great water, so I can at least go maybe 3 weeks without worrying about water. And even if it did go out, let me break. I'm only about 1,500 feet from some water that's coming out of Springer Mountain. And it is top grade water as well. It's nature's aqua pump, so it's never going to stop. So, water, knock on wood, fortunately, is not going to be a real huge concern.
Well, that's very fortunate to have a resource like that. That's hard to buy. There are a handful of places where the water does come up out of the ground and crisp and clean and clear, probably with higher than normal mineral content, but with a little bit of filtration, that shouldn't be really a problem. So, and in some cases, I know that water comes out as remarkably soft water. There's a spring over by Little River. I think it maybe feeds into Little River that is known for being remarkably soft water. So don't know how that happens, how it can come out of the mineral earth and not be loaded with minerals, but it is remarkably soft water. So that's a lucky thing. So glad to know that you have that resource.
But you know what? A lot of people don't know where their nearest water source is. I mean, besides the grocery store.
Right.
So that's something to keep in the back of our minds too. In the case of an extended situation, where can you find some, fresh water or semi-fresh water that's drinkable or treatable, as Colt was saying, and that could be a resource as well.
Well, yeah, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, you don't get water out of a ditch, but if you get water out of a pond, you can treat that water. There's a couple of things you can do, like you can make your own charcoal filter with 5-gallon buckets and sand and charcoal. It's not hard to do. It doesn't take a lot of resources. It doesn't take any special tools or talent. You might need a drill, but it's just a matter of layering material in a bucket, drilling a couple of holes in the bottom of it, and having a second bucket that you can catch that water as it runs through that filter. So you can filter 2 or 3 gallons of water at a time that way. So if you're going down to the river or to the lake to dip water out of it, you can do that. So if you filter that water and then you boil that water, that water's going to be safe to drink. You could do other things to purify and clarify that water with chlorine tablets and things like that. But, I think the best bet is almost always to boil the water. Filter it and boil it. And then you know that you have water that's safe to drink and safe to cook with. Now, if you're looking for water to be able to do basic cleaning, washing hands, washing dishes, things like that, filtering water is probably enough. If you got a little bit of dish detergent in there, that's going to be more than enough to have safe, clean surfaces to eat off of. But as somebody had made mention, I think in the YouTube chat, let me break. One of the important resources to have in an emergency are paper plates and plasticware, disposable utensils and disposable plates, because washing dishes when resources are, if you got to carry 5-gallon buckets of water a few miles,
that's a workout.
That you don't want to be using that water to wash dishes with if you don't have to. So having paper, having disposable methods of being able to consume foods is probably worthwhile, and I think that's great advice. The other thing is, it's really easy to get rid of something like paper plates. You can dig a hole, and it's that's its disposal. It'll biodegrade in that hole, and in short enough time that it just won't matter. So you don't have to worry about having garbage stack up when you're dealing with paper plates. Now the plasticware, probably don't want to put that in a hole, but that doesn't take up as much space, and maybe you can find a different receptacle for that until you have an opportunity to dispose of it properly or clean it. But and that may be the other thing is you want to take your utensils and things to a source of water, and do your cleaning there. Just do it in such a way that you're not contaminating the water for the next guy or for yourself. But good stuff, Dana. And having a natural spring is pretty cool. All right, next on our list we have it looks like Atlanta 849, Pamela in Duluth. Pamela, did you have any words of wisdom for storing food or water?
Well, this is WROB 245 Atlanta 849 here in Duluth, and I wanted to go almost last on purpose because I wanted to listen to what y'all had to say so I could think of something that y'all didn't maybe come up with, but y'all really covered the water fairly well. We happen to have, we've heard before, a reverse osmosis water, and we just take our water right out of the sink and put it in this contraption, and we can actually get that ready ahead of time if we know something is coming up. And of course, you always have the water bottles you buy from the store to have available if you need be. But I think of needing to, can't use the water, you need to have a bath, you want to keep yourself clean. So I try to make sure I have plenty of wipes on hand and available for that, for hand cleaning. And Kroger has a body size bath wash washcloth that are good to have on hand just in case anything like that comes up. Let me break. And it's a good idea to have dry goods around for food, simple things, crackers, cookies, snacks, healthy snacks, hopefully, maybe even powdered milk, and hopefully you have enough water to mix it with. Maybe just what you need at the time. I'm not sure about how long you can keep that around and how it would stay cold if the refrigerator's not working with no electricity. But anyway, those are just kind of little things I thought of also. And let me break. I think the good idea you had was the paper plates and paper goods and plasticware to use. That makes a big difference. That really helps. I wrote something down. Oh, something to add to water. You get tired of drinking water, make sure you have some flavored powder, Kool-Aid, all these special drink powders they have, some healthy drinks around to drink. If you get tired of water, if you don't like water, that's a good idea. Let me break and see if you have any questions for me.
Oh yeah, the little powders. We've had those on the railroad for a long time. We'd always carry we called them squinchers, but it was basically carbohydrates and electrolytes and other additives that you could put into a water bottle, shake it up, and have something that tastes pretty okay, and offers a little bit of nutritional benefit, especially if you're in a situation where concerned about dehydration, you're out working in the heat or whatever. The squinchers were a great thing to have. You can buy something very similar to that. There's a whole section of those kind of concentrated drink mixes in at Walmart, Kroger, etc. They have them in a little squeeze bottle with a little liquid that you can flavor your drink with, or they have the powders. I don't know what all the ingredients are, because those things have a lot of ingredients you can't pronounce, and I think the rabbit hole guys would frown on us for recommending them. But there's probably healthier versions of that stuff out there. I just haven't. I just don't know what they are, but I'm sure that there are. For instance, there's the Athletic Greens is a powdered mix that you can add to water, and that's really all about health. That's about nutrition and protein and electrolytes and vitamins. That's something that is meant to provide you with energy, and it's a healthy drink. It's a healthy snack. It's a healthy alternative to drinking this stuff.
Well, that's a diet Mountain Dew.
Yeah, but do you know what makes it the diet is the things in here that you can't pronounce. I think this one's got aspartame in it as the sweetener, and that stuff is all kind of bad for you. So, but it doesn't have any Red 40 food dye that I know of. That's a joke for a different crowd of people, but I'll fill you in on that sometime. All right, Red 40 is always a part of every conversation. Thank you for that, Pamela. With that, we're going to continue on with Chattanooga 84 Jim. I'm not sure if Jim's in or not. We lost the in part of your transmission, but I'm going to call on you anyway, see if you have any comments for food or water storage. All right, Jim must be in and out, and we're going to mark him that way and continue on. Next on the list is Atlanta 295 Rhino in Atlanta. Rhino, do you have any comments for food and water storage?
Oh, yeah, good topic. Well, we have a solar system on the roof. Well, first of all, we're here in Atlanta, and we have a place on Burnt Mountain with a backup generator and everything. So if I know it's coming, I'm probably going to try to get out of town. But if we're here, we do have a water filtration system, and we also have a reverse osmosis system that's with that in the basement there. And for some reason, our system, the technician, the guy who set it all up for us, he explained that, we would have to, it would burn like a gallon for every, 2 gallons for every gallon that we processed, and the option was to send it down the drain or to do something else. So we got a 250-gallon tank to put it in. Let me break.
Yeah, go ahead, Rhino. You said let me break, and then we lost you.
All right, let's try this. I'm on a HT, so I may not be too clear, but we do keep a lot of dried beans. My family's from New Orleans, so we soak and cook beans. And we keep about a 5-gallon bucket of rice. Believe it or not, we eat a lot of rice. So we keep like a 5-gallon bucket of rice. That keeps for way longer than I would have ever thought. Canned goods, but one thing that we've done for years, is we have a dehydrator, and it works great. We dehydrate meat, we dehydrate fruit, and we keep a lot of that. And it doesn't keep a super long time, maybe just 2 or 3 weeks. But it would pull us through in a pinch. So other than that, that's about all I have as far as any clever ideas. I like what Pamela had to offer. That keeping drinks. Oh, and just in case, we have a lot of camping gear. We do. I have pulled out my Coleman stove and made coffee and cooked eggs in a pinch on that also.
Oh, very good. We once had the Coleman stove. I don't have one anymore, but we do have the Blackstone, and do a lot of cooking on that anyway. So there's always propane here, and I try to make sure that there are several bottles on hand all the time, so that we don't get into a pinch. But that's that outdoor kitchen, that alternative kitchen, I think is a fantastic resource to have. And you're right. The rice and the beans, these are simple foods. All right, so there's a million ways that you can prepare rice. I mean, basically, prepared rice is prepared rice. But I mean, you can season it and you can flavor it in such a wide variety of dishes. It can be so many different ethnicities use rice as a portion of their food staple. So you can have a wide variety of flavors and tastes out of a very simple, very nourishing, and filling, often very satisfying form of food. So, and beans, there's a million ways to prepare beans. So if you got one bag of beans, you can have that servings of beans prepared in a different way each day before you run out of the beans. The beans will, you'll not run out of new ways to prepare the beans before you run out of beans. And you'll have different flavors and different textures and different seasonings, with each meal.
And one thing that I saw online is, hey, have a list of different kind of foods that you enjoy. Have a list of recipes, written down on the sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, when emergencies happen, we may not be able to recall all of those different things and recipes right offhand. But if we have a prepared list already, we can say, okay, well, I have some rice, I have, some water, I have this, I have beans.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing Mexican tonight, or, just kind of spice it up a little bit, or, try different things. So, and it's not, why not try it one day out of the week, once a month? Just try something different, and with, what some of your prepared foods, and see what you can come up with, because you want it to be tasty as well. If we're in that kind of situation, if it's bad enough already that we're on, generator power and water, might as well make it tasty.
So we have I don't know, we have 4 or 5 of those containers of survival food, right? And so popping the lid off these containers, it looks like what you get is you get a bag of something that you're going to boil. So it might be rice, it might be macaroni and cheese. Let me break. But, you know, each one of these bags has like, I don't know, 10 servings in it. There's supposed to be 70 servings in the container. You know, I mean, I just, all right, so what you're saying about preparing the food in different ways, have some recipes on hand. The other thing we need to do is we need to break into these survival foods. We need to prepare some of that. Go ahead and cook it up. You know, okay, there's not an emergency, but that's okay. Go ahead and open it up and prepare some of that food so you know what you're dealing with. And you know what you're going to need to put with it to make it the way that you like it. Because, let's face it, there are 50 ways that you can make macaroni and cheese, and you may not care for the way that I like it. I may not care for the way that you like it. Baked mac and cheese is usually pretty awesome, but I know that some people just don't care for that at all. They say the mac and cheese is too mushy. Well, if you're talking about something that's, you know, in a heat shrink vacuum packed bag for whatever period of time, that's probably not going to be the tastiest option available, but it will get you through a period of survival. So if you're going to have these survival foods, I think that it's important that we break them open and that we sample some of the food, and so that we have some idea, A, how appetizing the food is to begin with, and B, maybe it's not that difficult to have the things that you need to make that actually pretty tasty to suit your family's interests and needs. So we didn't talk a lot about those prepared survival buckets of food, and I don't know that that's really the best choice, but I think that, as David from the Rabbit Hole often says, you got to start somewhere. Any place you start is where you start. So whether it's buying 2 instead of 1, that's a start. I mean, and it can be as simple as that. If you're just slowly stockpiling whatever things you normally buy, that's a form of preparedness, and you can do that over a period of time, and you can have the resources that you need to be able to survive many different disasters. But I have to warn all of us that no matter what you do, there's always the unexpected, and that will sometimes negate all the things that we've done. So contingencies, alternatives, cooperation, these are all things that we should definitely exercise. I think cooperation can be the biggest, the most important thing. That, all right, so if I know somebody who has a stockpile of supplies, is it okay for me to assume that I don't have to, because I could just mooch off of them?
Did you ever see the movie Leave the World Behind?
I don't know that I had. Let's break.
So in the movie, this scenario happened, and they went to their neighbor's house to get some medical supplies for their son, and you know, this guy was a longtime friend, and they were met with a shotgun.
Yeah.
In the front, and he said, "Hey, please stay in your vehicle." So, you know, we hope that our friends are our friends, but in certain situations, we may just have to be prepared ourselves, or have something to, you know, that's when having excess things, supplies work. You can trade with people.
Right.
They may not want to just give things away, but they may need some beans. You know, you may have beans, or you may have other things that they can use. So
that's right.
Always, you know, that goes along with being prepared.
Being prepared,
having more than you need.
And yeah, so having that stock of that material that you can trade. But I think that, you know, if someone has stockpiled materials and goods, and you have as well, but the tornado comes and takes all of your supplies and scatters them in the wind, and now you're down to nothing. The person that has been stockpiling and knows that you have too is going to be far more willing to lend a hand in that circumstance. And chances are his stockpile didn't get hit by the tornado. You know, so I think when we have like minds, we know that we are both working toward that common goal, we're a lot more likely to help each other out. But if if you're the neighbor who has nothing and has no preparation, doesn't even have a plastic tarp to keep the rain off of their house if the roof is damaged, you know, if you're that neighbor, then no, I don't want to use my resources on you, because I don't want to make a bigger investment in you than you have. And that, I think, is a big part of this in that community. We are more than willing to invest in those that can be a resource, but not so much into those that are just going to be a consumer and not be able to contribute. So that's one of the things that you want to be sure that when you are engaged in these circles, that you can be one that can contribute and not just be somebody who is a consumer. And I think if you can accomplish that, then the chances of getting the neighbor to share their medications with you because your stuff got damaged in the flood, I think the chances of having that cooperation are far greater.
Yeah, and you know, just how people were saying earlier, maybe having the iodine drops or whatever for the water to clean it. Someone may have a lot of water stored, but they may not have a means to clean it, or they may have forgotten that step, or they may need more tablets.
Or, you know, they could have an endless supply of water high atop Mount Olympus, but not have enough rice or enough. Whereas if you've got buckets and buckets full of rice, maybe you can work out a deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's things like that to consider as well, and maybe conversations that might be worth having before the event occurs. We don't know what the event is. We don't know if the event will ever even happen. Let's break. But if it does, and it's the worst thing we could ever have imagined, or maybe it's worse than we've ever imagined. Having these conversations early and often can help us get a long way toward having that resilience to get past whatever that circumstance may be. All right, Rhino, thank you for that. That was great input. And with that, we're going to keep on trucking here. We have a guest checking in on the Buckhead repeater. We didn't get a name, but we have WSJP532. Can you come back with a name, and do you have any comments for tonight's net?
Hey, yeah, thanks. My name is Rob, and it's WSJP534. I don't know if I said 2 earlier, but that is not my call sign. I would say that the one thing I found helpful during Helene, I had family up in North Carolina, was having a list of phone numbers of people that I wanted to contact. So we lost power to the cell phone, lost the cellular network, and we were able to, of course, get on an alternate communication network and give out phone numbers for ham radio operators to contact via text for us to let people know we were okay. But so having a list of phone numbers was very handy.
You know, Rob, that's a great point, and it occurs to me that, you know, for the longest time I didn't even know my wife's phone number, right? Because, you know, you just pull up the contact in the phone and you hit send, and we didn't need to know. Well, the other part of that problem was she had, over the course of about 4 years, had 3 different phones from 3 different carriers and a new number each time.
Oh.
But now she's had the same number for some time. I think she was trying to shake certain contacts. I'm not entirely sure. But in any case, I could never keep track of her phone number. I know it by heart now.
That's
but,
good.
You know, can you remember the, you know, when you were a kid, did your family have a phone on the wall?
We did.
In the kitchen?
Yeah, it was in the kitchen. It
Do
had
you
a
know
long
what that phone number
cord.
was?
Yeah, my home phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it.
So I still remember.
I still know it.
remember that number too.
Yeah.
And what was cool was, for the longest time, my dad had that number ported over to his cell phone.
Huh.
But then he ran into cell phone trouble and getting a new number, and oh, come on, man, we've had that number in the family for 50 years, and okay, well, it's gone now. But I still remember the number. But do you know? Name somebody in your family.
I have 2 brothers, and I can't tell
what's
you
Justin's phone number?
I can't tell you by heart. I don't know
So
him.
what if you had to call Justin and your phone was in pieces on the ground, and you needed to call him right now?
That would be terrible.
Yeah, so that's Rob's point, and I think that's perfectly valid. We do need to have some sort of a hard copy of phone numbers that we can keep in the glove box, that we can keep, someplace in the house, that we can keep someplace at work, underneath all the stuff in that bottom drawer. Have that list of all these important phone numbers that are printed on a piece of paper. Get it. The plastic. Laminated?
Yeah.
Get it laminated if you can, so that that piece of paper will survive getting wet or whatever, and that way, if the cell phone is destroyed because of the flood, because of the tornado, because of the car crash, whatever that might be, you still have a way of making contact. That's a great point, Rob. I appreciate that. Do you have anything else?
I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm actually going to check out now. I got to put little ones to bed. But thank you guys for hosting the net here.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. I look forward to talking with you again very soon. Go take care of the family. This is, this is WQIR 514, but I'm not signing off. In any case, that's Rob. He's going to sign. WSJP 534 is going to sign off. We got you covered, Rob, so go ahead and take care of your family. Atlanta 26 is next. Flip from the beautiful Druid Hills. Flip, are you on the Peachtree machine or Buckhead?
I think I'm back on flagship. It's my anchor.
Ah, very nice. Sounding great on flagship. Okay, so what's your food and water storage plan?
Well, for water, we do have a number of gallons of water in storage down in our, I guess you could call it basement. It's really kind of a rat cellar kind of place. But, if something really, it was a terrible storm or the house got damaged in a tornado or whatever, and we were here, we would have water down there. So we're pretty good with that for a few days. I like Dana's idea with the well because we have a community swimming pool that we're a member of around the corner, and we have a well over there, 250 feet down, and the water is nice and clean when it comes up after it's been filtered by 250 feet of earth. So that would be a good thing as long as we have power, and we can take a generator over there. Let me break. As far as food goes, our freezers, we have 3 freezers, one in the basement, one in the garage, and one in our kitchen, and we have tons of leftover frozen food that we vacuum pack through a food saver. And in fact, we've talked about, now that we're kind of empty nesters here, how we need to start cycling through that, like, purposely take, something out every week and at least, and thawing it out and eating it, preparing it and eating it, obviously. So that's kind of our plan going forward, but we have plenty of food here.
All right. Well, it's good to have a plan. I think that's the most important thing, is to just have a plan, and there again has some contingencies. Another contingency, and I think that Flip was kind of heading this way, talking about he's got some water stored in his basement. Is that, Flip? Is that the water that you have in your hot water heater?
No. We've got a number of gallons that are just individual gallons, like jugs of gallons of water.
Well, don't forget, that water heater has, 30, 40, 50 gallons, depending on how big your water heater is. But that's also a source of water. So if your power is out, obviously the water's not hot. And even if it is hot, you can run that water into a pan or into a container and let it cool off. And that can be water that you can use to, you can cook with it, you can clean with it, and you really could consume it because it's the same water that comes out of your tap. It's just been sitting in a water heater. So, we very often I know that when I go to fill a pot with water, I usually fill it with hot water. Even though it comes out, it's cold when it. By the time the water's hot, the pan's already full. But something in my mind tells me I need to use the hot water for that if I'm going to put a pan on the stove. I know it's not right. That's just the way it is. So with that in mind, but good stuff, Flip. That's a great comment. All right, continuing on, we've got Chattanooga 32, Scott in Rossville. Scott, do you have any comments for tonight's net? All right, not hearing anything from Scott. We're going to keep on moving. We're going to show Scott is in and out. And next on the list is Atlanta 102, Jim, incoming. Jim, do you have any comments for tonight's net?
Net controlled, this is Atlanta 102. Are you receiving me okay?
Audio is a little bit low, but your carrier is clean.
Thank you. So I'm saying this tongue-in-cheek, but also kind of serious. One of the things that you should consider, especially being in North Georgia, is that distillation equipment, which has been used in the past for things like you saw on Dukes of Hazzard, and production of things that aren't legal. You can also use the exact same equipment to put water that you've filtered in, and at the other side of it, you've got perfectly, very, very, very clean water for drinking. And a water distillation process is not as exacting as other uses of distillation. Let me break. So by just basically understanding a little bit about how to build distillation equipment in a time of crisis, you can have drinkable water, from almost any source that you can put through a couple pieces of cloth to get the particulate matter down before you put it into your distillation equipment. And, it's a good skill to master and have in your back pocket. With that said, thanks for hosting an awesome net tonight, and appreciate all of you.
Oh, that is a great point, Jim. And I think, having the ability to distill, we're going to have to deal with that. There we go. Sorry about that, Jim. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Having the ability to distill some water, the water that you evaporate and recondense, that condensed water is going to be void of all of the impurities that it may have started out with. So things like chlorine and other additives, any dirt or matter, any bacteria, all of those things are going to be eliminated in that condensed water. So I think that I don't have any distilling equipment, but it's one of those things that I thought it'd be a cool thing just to kind of have some of those big copper pots and those coils, just because they look cool, and I've even seen them on Amazon, and you can buy some of that stuff that maybe it's not actually legitimate distilling equipment, but it looks cool. But if you were in a situation where you really needed to purify water, it'd be a great way to do it. Especially if you had a lot of water. You can, because if you can boil that water, steam it off, let it condense back into water, you've got something that's safe, and you can be confident that your family can consume that without fear of bugs and sickness and all the things we worry about with dirty water. So that's a great idea, and I'm pretty sure now there's going to be some experts out here that can tell better, but I believe that as long as you're not selling it, that if you're distilling it for personal consumption, it's perfectly legal. It's when you transport it and sell it that you are likely to get into some kind of trouble. But I do know of a small handful of people that do their own brewing and their own distilling. Now, my experience with home distilleries, is it tastes awful. It's horrible. Turpentine. But maybe that's something that you learn with experience and skills developed and that sort of thing. But I've not had any home distilled spirits that are worth more than a sip. So that's a separate issue. But I believe that you can do that legally as long as it's for personal consumption. But you'd better be a lot better at it than any that I've experienced. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think that whatever you do in your home is your business, really. So whether it's dealing with water a certain kind of way, and look, some states I think it's illegal to catch rainwater.
Yeah, right.
I don't know about Georgia, but
I don't know either.
Some states it's illegal to catch rainwater, so that baffles me. But you just have to know the laws, but also be smart about it. And let me break.
Yeah, I think that's right, and so that's the important thing here. Probably the biggest takeaway is what we do in our home, what we store in our home, what we keep in our home, what we're prepared for in our home is our own business. And we can do all of these things, but we want to do these things with some discretion. And so the last thing we want to do is make all of our neighbors aware of the fact that I've got 6 months worth of food stored in my basement, or I've got 800 gallons of water in my basement. I've got 250 gallons of diesel fuel for my generator in my basement. I've got 7,000 rounds of ammunition in my gun room. Let's not share these details, especially with maybe loose connections and associates and neighbors that may or may not be close friends. Some of these pieces of information can be strategic and can be used in very powerful ways, and maybe not in your best interest. So when we're talking about some of the things that we have, maybe it's best that we know what we have, and we know what we're capable of, and we can talk about what our capabilities are without specifically describing how many 5-gallon buckets full of rice are in the basement, and how many pounds of beans we have, how many jars of fresh vegetables do we have canned. We can vegetables, but do we have to tell you how much I have on hand? That's not for you to know. You just need to know that we have experience doing that, and we can take care of ourselves. And that's something I'd like for all of us to kind of take away, is have some discretion in your preparedness, so that you don't become a victim when things do get uncomfortable.
Yeah, and even when talking with people about preparedness, I always disclose a little bit at the time, because you never know. Someone may may not be into getting prepared at all,
mm-hmm.
and so that may be a conversation on a topic that you may need to stay away from with that individual, especially if they're an associate or maybe even a friend or a good friend or family that where they know where you live. Because the first thing that happens is people who are not prepared are going to go to the big box stores, and the shelves are going to be empty.
Right.
Right. And then they're going to think, okay, well, who else do I know that has something? Oh, John here down the street. He's right down the street. Let's just go pay him a visit. And next thing you know, you get knocks at your door unwarranted, and now you might have a decision to make, a tough decision.
Could very well be. Let's break. Got a short list of additional YouTube check-ins here. We'll go through, and then we'll take one final round of additional check-ins, late check-ins, or anyone with questions or comments. If we didn't get to your comment and you'd like to chime back in, your chance is coming up here very soon. So we have Rome 27 Terry in Menlo is YouTube check-in and out. Atlanta 420 William in Roswell is also a check-in on YouTube. Chattanooga 69 Ronnie, the Velvet Elvis from Las Vegas, is a YouTube check-in. We have a guest check-in from WSGC 726 Andrew in Wesley Chapel, Florida. And also we have Gainesville 26J in Flowery Branch, a YouTube check-in. That's what we have at this time. We'll take additional check-ins. Any questions or comments? Net Control, standing by.
Comment?
Comment 829.
Comment, Atlanta 102.
Atlanta 255.
Yeah, 179.
Oh, you got her in twice. She was relayed in, Jennifer.
That's all right. All right.
Comment?
Station with a comment. Give us some way of identifying you. We've got 4 or 5 comments to get through here, so I'd like to distinguish yours from everyone else's.
This is WSGP 646 Atlanta 164. Dan from Marietta.
All right, Dan. We'll get you in the list here of comments, and we'll come to you here in just a bit. Do we have any other check-ins, questions, or comments?
Atlanta 228. I have a comment.
All right, so we've got comments from Atlanta 102, Atlanta 849, Atlanta 164, and Atlanta 228. And we have late check-ins from Atlanta 255 and Chattanooga 179. Let me grab these check-ins first. Atlanta 255, Jennifer. I know that we did get a relay check-in from you from, what's his name? The Mount Olympus guy.
250.
Yeah, Dana. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. Sorry about that, Dana. We got a relay for you from him a little while ago, but we've got you in the log yourself now. So go ahead with your comments, questions, or any advice you have for storing food and water.
Well, I'm sitting here watching football with an HT, so hopefully I'm coming in okay. But a couple of things. Somebody brought up distilling water. That'll take heavy metals out of it, too. I did want to say that. But then if you go to EPA.gov, you can look up the rainwater collection regulations. And Georgia is a regulated state, and they limit the use of it. So that's it. Back to net control.
Well, that's interesting, Jennifer. I did not know that. We do have a barrel that collects rainwater, but it emits exactly the same amount of rainwater that it collects. So we've never really done anything with it. And from looking at the contents of that barrel, I don't think we ever would use that water. We can find better water. That's just not. That's not water that I would. You know, if we were talking about using it to water plants, that'd be just fine. I don't think that water would be fit for consumption. Not without distilling or at least boiling and filtering.
Doing something to it.
Yeah, but that's great to know. So Georgia.gov, you can find regulations about collecting rainwater. That's great stuff. Thanks for that. I bet you could also find regulations about distilling spirits and water and probably some things about brewing too. I mean, they sell home brewing kits on the internet. I may or may not have purchased one once.
May or may not.
May or may not have. It's hard to say for sure. The purchase history might be there. I'm not entirely sure that it is. So, in any case, the jury is out on that one. Good stuff, Jennifer. Thank you for that. Chattanooga 179, Brett in Chattanooga. Questions or comments? Any advice for storing food and water?
I was just checking in. I'm enjoying the topic today.
All right, Brett, we've got you in the log then, and we'll mark you as in and out. That's our typical custom. Let me break.
That's what I'm thinking about. Trying to set all
Yeah, no worries, Brett. That's typically what we do for folks that just want to get in the log and don't have any comments. If they'll tell us that they're in and out, we'll mark them in the log that way, and then they don't get called on for comments. But no worries. In any case, we got you in here. Let's go next. We've got a comment from Atlanta 102. Jim, go ahead.
Hey, I'll be brief and just a little bit on topic and off topic, but just reminding everybody that every Friday night, in addition to your emergency preparedness, communications is kind of why we're all here and what we're all into. And Dana and friends all host an awesome activity all night tomorrow, so, all night Friday night. So if you've never checked it out, please check it out. And with that, just say thank you to Net Control for an awesome net, and everyone have a great night.
All right, Jim, thank you for that. And yes, definitely check out the Friday night at 9, starting at 7:30. Yeah, there's a Facebook post that tells you all about all the various things. So we're doing Friday nights at 9, Simplex Challenge on GMRS and amateur frequencies. Great opportunity to get to know how your radio station performs and how your signal propagates under various conditions. And a great way to expand your RF knowledge. And you know, these are things that we can do to study for our amateur license without even cracking the book open. Just, you know, experience things that we do and apply, and you know, that's not on the test, but it kind of is on the test. So all good stuff, worthwhile. So thanks, Jim. Appreciate your comments, and yeah, definitely check out the Friday night at 9. Next comment is Atlanta 849, Pamela in Duluth. Go ahead, Pamela.
Okay, gentlemen, I just had a few quick little tidbits, and hey, I'm there too, Jennifer. I like cinnamon sugar, so I was trying to make sure I have cinnamon sugar around, but it's good to just spread on bread if you need something, you can't toast something or can't cook something. Also, you can open up a can of sweet potatoes and put some cinnamon sugar on that, and you have a nice little something to eat. Also, you might want to have some chocolate syrup around for the kids. They probably enjoy that. Even you just add it to water, it has a good flavor, or the powdered milk. And also, Rhino said what I was going to say next was the grill. Make sure you have grill supplies around to use that so you can cook that food on and enjoy it. Okay, I will send it back to you. Just a couple of things there, that's all.
Oh, definitely. And for those of us that do some camping, whether you have an RV or whether you do tent camping, you know, those supplies can become a great survival aid in a pinch. So for those of us that have done camping and used the Coleman stove or other means of preparing food in with primitive or with limited resources and infrastructure, it's a great skill to have. And if you know how to start a fire, you can eat. And I think that that's an important thing to consider. But great points. And yeah, you know, the chocolate syrup, its stuff keeps pretty well. So you don't really worry about the chocolate syrup going bad. I've never had, well, I don't know that I've ever had any of it long enough for it to go bad. I'll have to look into that. Does chocolate syrup go bad?
You know, I'm not sure, and I think like you, I've never had any syrup or chocolate syrup to last long because I just love using it. So
Yeah, and I know that cinnamon is good to have around. A lot of insects don't like cinnamon, so cinnamon can be a real nice natural insect repellent. If you put cinnamon, if you put cinnamon in various places, like around your thresholds and things like that, that can go a long way towards keeping bugs out. I don't know how long it lasts. I think it's one of those things that, my grandmother's house always smelled like cinnamon. I wonder if that's why.
I mean, you never know. Probably.
Yeah, probably never will know. But in any case, that's interesting. I wonder if Pamela's house smells like cinnamon.
We can ask her.
And Pamela, does your house smell like cinnamon?
Well, I suppose so when I use it sometimes, but I haven't gone out of my way to sprinkle it around, but that sounds like a good idea because it does smell good. But let me add one more thing. The spray cans of cheese, you want to have your cheese, there's another flavor, okay? There you go.
Oh, I'm gonna draw the line at spray can cheese.
But look, you never can be too prepared. You never know. It could come in handy.
Yeah,
test it out on a few meals and see how, test it out first. Don't knock it till you try.
The powdered cheese that comes in the macaroni and cheese is remarkably tasty. I don't know how they get that stuff to taste as good as it does. It's probably got all those ingredients that you cannot pronounce, and maybe that's how they achieve that. But I'm gonna pass on the spray cheese. But there again, that goes back to there's a million ways to prepare things like macaroni and cheese, right? We talked about that earlier, and the way that I like macaroni and cheese may not be the way that you like it at all. Maybe you don't even like macaroni and cheese. That's always a possibility, although it's unlikely. I think you probably do. Do you?
Well, yeah, I like mac and cheese.
Oh, yeah.
I love
See,
it.
the American.
Now, my brother is a vegan, so he stays away from the cheese a lot. But
okay.
But I think in an emergency situation, I think any of us would eat anything that's going to be life-sustaining.
That's true. I mean, we're going to, things like philosophy kind of has to get set aside when you're dealing with survival. You can still prepare for things that fit within those philosophical values, but when those resources are limited or gone, you kind of need to do what you need to do.
Exactly.
And so that comes into play as well. All right, next on our list is Atlanta 164, Dan in Marietta. Dan, do you have any comments or questions for tonight's net?
Yes, this is WSGP 646, Atlanta 164. One thing I wanted to say is, from my memory of taking a couple of semesters of organic chemistry decades ago, simple distillation can be a tricky process. And I was going to add on to what Jennifer said. Yes, it can remove heavy metals, but you need to have sort of a sophisticated apparatus. So if you get something from Amazon, make sure it's the real thing. The more intricate it is, the more precise it will be. And also, I don't think distillation removes other things. Like, for example, I'm not sure if it would remove compounds that have a similar boiling point, a lower boiling point specifically than water. Like toluene, I remember. Brake cleaning compound. In other words, if your well has anything in it, which a lot of wells do. I mean, who knows? And who knows what the farmers 100 years ago put in their farms? All kinds of insecticides. But anyway, I would get the water tested and read a lot more about distillation and practice with it and learn the intricacies of distillation. For example, it's very helpful if you have a very accurate thermometer, a laboratory-grade thermometer to kind of keep track of what's going on. Anyway, that's it.
Well, you know, I hadn't really considered the chemistry of various compounds that might be in the water besides the water. And I suppose that, yeah, that's a valid point, that the boiling point is similar or lower than the boiling point of water. You're boiling that stuff off too. And that stuff's going to condense when the water condenses. So you're not really going to get rid of it. I guess filtration, perhaps. I don't know how you purify, because molecule-wise, those things are probably often very similar in size to water molecules. So I'm not sure how you can condense the one without condensing the other.
But that's where, you know, that's why we talk about things like this now, so that we can, you know, test things out. And maybe, you know, when I was little, my dad had this water tester, and it would you can drop it in the water, and the water would turn different colors depending on, you know, the chemicals in it and everything. And you'd be surprised. Like, I love, you know, drinking out of the faucet on the side, but that water wasn't very good to drink. You know, when you look at it and the chemicals involved in it.
Oh yeah, the water that comes out of the hose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I survived.
Right.
But,
We all did. I mean, that was never really a thing when I was a kid. We all drank out of the hose.
Yeah.
And we always noticed that the hose tasted a little bit funny, but we never really considered that there was anything wrong with it. That's just the way it tastes when it comes from the hose. When you're out playing in the neighborhood, and that was the other thing, is it didn't matter whose hose it was. You know, if there were 10 kids over at somebody's house, we're all drinking out of that same hose.
Yeah.
And you know, we made it this far.
It was refreshing.
Yeah.
It was, you know.
Yeah. So
how did we survive?
Yep. Well, let's see what Ray has to say. Atlanta 228. Ray, do you have comments or questions for the net tonight?
Yes, I do, Judson. You know that I've been involved with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for a long time. And two things that are very important, especially when you have catastrophic destruction, when your house is totally wiped out, there's two things you need. You need a wood-burning stove that will burn any type of wood or paper or anything. This way you can boil water, you can cook food, you'll have heat, and the other thing is you got to have a fishing pole, because there's usually always water around somewhere, and you usually can always catch a fish. Those are the two top things that I've learned going through their survival course.
Well, that's a great point, Ray. And I tell you, that's one thing that I've never really had. There's some fishing gear around here somewhere. My dad has always left some stuff around. My son has some stuff around. I've never really been one to fish. I've gone a handful of times since we moved to Georgia. We've got this Lake Allatoona right here. And we've gone out on the lake several times. We've gone fishing on the lake several times, but I'm not much of a fisherman, so I just don't have the patience to sit still and be quiet like that. But that is a great point, and that is a often ignored resource that could be the difference. You know, if you're looking for protein, there's a lot of it right there in the water. So that's a great suggestion. And the ability to cook with a wood burning stove or a wood burning anything, because you know you can almost always find wood. You can cut stuff down, even if you don't have to have a chainsaw to cut stuff down. I mean, you can cut small trees down with a handsaw. I've done it, so it's not beyond the capability. And you can cut larger stuff, you know, with a hoop saw and things like that, as long as you know, it's not too green. You know, when it's really green, it's harder to cut. But if it's, you know, 10 inches or so around, but you can still cut that stuff with a hoop saw. You don't necessarily have to have power tools to do that. So you can be self-sufficient. You know, our forefathers did it without all these fancy power tools, and if we had to do it, we just need to put the sweat equity into it and make those things happen. So good stuff, Ray. All right, so that brings us to the end of the roster and the end of tonight's program. Looks like I've got two more here to check in. We've got Atlanta 248 Evelyn in LJ is a YouTube check-in, and WRYX 296 Scott in Friendsville, Tennessee is also a YouTube check-in. And I think that's the end of the program for tonight. So I want to say thanks to everyone who checked in tonight. And just as a reminder, North Georgia GMRS worst kept secret is the NGARA. If you're interested in learning more about the NGARA, send an email to Gary at nggmrs.org and ask your questions there. And if you want to become a member of the NGARA, you can very easily get the information. And eventually there will be a website, much like the NGGMRS website, that details the membership and the purchasing a membership and all of that. Let me break. That's still in development. We really weren't planning on releasing this information until the Chattanooga Ham Fest, but there's been such a demand for information and access to this behind the scenes. We do have 3 repeaters up and running at this time. The Buckhead, we have a repeater on the Buckhead site. We have one at Bisky Mountain. We call that's the flagship site, the Bisky Mountain repeater, and Currahee Mountain, which is the same as Toccoa. Those are all locations that are currently in play. Fort Mountain is coming soon, and we'll have more repeaters coming online. Total of 10 in the lineup at the moment. I think there will likely be more over time. But once again, Gary at nggmrs.org. If you have any questions or want more information about the amateur radio side of North Georgia GMRS. So with that, let me break. We're going to come back and wrap this thing up. This concludes the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we had a total of, how many was it, Mike? Blue Ridge 63. Come back with your total check-ins and go ahead and sign out while you're there.
Blue Ridge 63, we had a total of 75 chickens. I'll be signing off. WRWM 344, Blue Ridge 63. Back to you.
All right, you heard it from the official login administrator. 75 chickens tonight. Net Control will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, comments on the YouTube video shows engagement with the video and helps the channel grow. Tune in on any linked repeater, North Georgia GMRS linked repeater next week, or tune in on the YouTube live stream when we talk about what is next week's topic. I had that information right here, handy, on another page. So next week we're going to continue on with preparedness. September is preparedness month. So next week we're going to talk about emergency power, generators, solar panels, and batteries. The week after that we're going to talk about emergency communications, radio comms plans, and simplex. Finally, we're going to wrap up September on the 25th with terror attacks and what is the plan. So stick around for all of those. The tech series will continue in October from the Chattanooga Ham Fest. We'll be producing the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net live from Studio Vanguard at the Ham Fest grounds on October 2nd. So lots of interesting nets coming up, and we hope that you'll be a part of each and every one of them. Now, where was I? I've got to switch pages again. There we go.
By heart. This concludes.
Yeah. So thank you for allowing us to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946, WQYR 514. My name is Justin.
And this is WSAL 368, Atlanta 263. My name is Rogers.
Gary, get well soon. We need you back here, man. We are North Georgia GMRS Network.
And we are clear.
Good night, everyone.
Atlanta 255, WSAM 586, clear the net.
would give us